Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to Manage Engine's first Patch Tuesday webinar of 2022. Hope all of you are safe and sound. Thank you for taking time off your schedule to join our webinar. Let me introduce myself. I'm Kartika and I'm a product specialist at Manage Engine. I'll be a presenter for today. I'm also accompanied by an expert panel who will be assisting you with all your queries today. In today's session, we will focus on this month's Patch Tuesday updates along with the ways to handle them. This is going to be a quick 45-minute session wherein we'll be discussing in brief about the rising cybercrimes and the news that made it to the headlines. Following that, we will have a complete breakdown of this month's Patch Tuesday updates, analyzing in detail about the risks of neglecting them. After which, I'll give you pointers on how to tackle patching in a hybrid work environment. Feel free to ask questions anywhere in the session. This webinar is also being recorded, and the recorded version will be available to you in 1 or 2 working days. With that, let's dive straight into the first thing on our agenda, cybersecurity. The real scares when it comes to the IT world are cyber threats and attacks which are only increasing and becoming relentless with time. Let's take a look at few of them that made it to the headlines. First up, we have the FBI, NSA, and CISA warning of Russian hackers targeting critical US infrastructure. This is believed to be due to the renewed tension between the US and Russia over Ukraine and Kazakhstan. American cybersecurity and intelligence agencies such as CISA, FBI, and NSA on Tuesday have released a joint advisory on how to detect, respond to, and mitigate cyber attacks orchestrated by Russian state-sponsored actors. They have laid bare the tactics, techniques, and procedures adopted by the adversaries, including spear phishing, brute force, and exploiting known vulnerabilities to gain initial access to target networks. A list of flaws exploited by Russian hacking groups to gain an initial foothold are given on your screen. Russian APT groups have been historically observed setting their sights on operational technology and industrial control systems with the goal of deploying destructive malware. To increase cyber resilience against this threat, the agencies recommend mandating multi-factor authentication for all users, looking out for signs of abnormal activity implying lateral movement, enforcing network segmentation, and keeping operating systems, applications, and firmware up to date. Mainly, the advisory recommends organizations to use a centralized patch management system. Other best practices include implementing robust log collection and retention, strong password policies, strong spam filters to avoid phishing emails, and rigorous configuration management programs. Organizations are requested to check their network security and implement the best practice suggestions to stay abreast cyber attacks. Next up, we have macOS. We have a macOS bug that was patched by Apple recently that could let people spy on you. Microsoft on Monday released details about a bug in macOS that Apple fixed last month, named PowerDial, identified as CVE 2021-30970, that could let attackers hijack apps, install their own nasty apps, use the microphone to eavesdrop, or grab screenshots of whatever is displayed on your screen. The vulnerability shows malicious apps to bypass privacy preferences. Specifically, it could allow an attacker to bypass the operating system's transparency, consent, and control technology, thereby gaining unauthorized access to a user's protected data. The Microsoft 365 Defender research team said in its advisory, when an app requests access to protected user data, one of the two things can happen. If the app and the type of request have a record in the TCC databases, then a flag in the database entry dictates whether to allow or deny the request automatically and without any user interaction. 2. If the app and the type of request do not have a record in the TCC databases, then a prompt is presented to the user who decides whether to grant or deny access. The said decision is backed into the databases so that succeeding similar requests will now fall under the first scenario. If an attacker gets full disk access to the TCC databases, they could edit it to grant arbitrary permissions to any app they choose, including their own malicious app. The affected user would also not be prompted to allow or deny the said permissions, thus allowing the app to run with configurations they may not have known or consented to. So this isn't the first time that TCC databases have shown themselves to be susceptible to bypass. There have been a trio of past vulnerabilities, namely Time Machine mounts tracked as CV 2020-9771, Environment Variable Poisoning tracked as CV 2020-9934, and Bundle Conclusion Issue tracked as CV 2021-30713. That said, Apple has released a fix for the current vulnerability in macOS Big Sur and macOS Monterey as part of its December 13, 2021 security update. At that time, as is typical, Apple didn't give much detail, merely stating that the flaw was a logic issue that could allow a malicious to bypass privacy preferences, a flaw that is addressed with improved state management. So if you guys haven't patched this already, do it as soon as possible. So with that, we come to the end of the cyber news section. Let's take a quick look at the Windows lifecycle and the versions of the operating system that are due for end of life. So Microsoft has terminated its support for Windows 10 version 2004 for Enterprise and Education editions and Home, Pro, and Pro for Workstations edition on December 14, 2021. Hence, the updates for the same this month are not supported by Manage Engine. So customers still on this version are requested to move up and upgrade to later versions like Windows 10 20H2, Windows 10 21H1, or Windows 11. That said, let's take a look at the Patch Tuesday updates now. Starting with the 0-day vulnerabilities, we have 6 0 days patched this month. Thankfully, there are no actively exploited vulnerabilities this month. Let's take a look at the 0 days patched now. So first, we have a remote code execution vulnerability in open source curl tracked as CV 2021-22947 patched. So this is a publicly disclosed vulnerability. Next, we have another remote code execution vulnerability in libarchive. So this one's tracked as CV 2021-36976. So this is also a publicly disclosed 0-day that was patched this Patch Tuesday. Third, we have an elevation of privilege vulnerability in Windows User Profile Service. So this one's tracked as CV 2022-21919. Next, we have a spoofing vulnerability in Windows Certificate tracked as CV 2022-21836. So this is also a publicly disclosed 0-day. Then we have a denial of service vulnerability in Windows Event Tracing Discretionary Access Control List. So this 0-day is tracked as CVE 2022-21839. This again is a publicly disclosed 0-day vulnerability. Then we have a remote code execution 0-day in Windows Security Center API. This one's tracked as CVE 2022-21874. Moving on to the critical vulnerabilities patched this Patch Tuesday. So we have about 9 critical vulnerabilities that have been patched. Of these, the ones of interest are CVE 2022-21846. So this is a vulnerability in Microsoft Exchange Server. It's a remote code execution vulnerability. This is one of the 3 Exchange remote code execution vulnerabilities being fixed this month, and all are listed are being network adjacent. So an attacker would need to be tied to the target network somehow to exploit these vulnerabilities. Still, an insider or attacker with a foothold in the target network could use this bug to take over the Exchange server. Another critical vulnerability of interest would be CVE 2022-21857. So this is a vulnerability in Active Directory domain services, and it causes elevation of privilege. So this patch fixes a bug that allows attackers to elevate privileges across an Active Directory trust boundary under certain conditions. So this bug requires some level of privileges. So again, an insider or other attacker with a foothold in a network could use this for lateral movement. So we're moving on to the vulnerable critical vulnerability. So this is tracked as CVE 2022-21907, and it is a vulnerability in Windows HTTP protocol stack. It's again a remote code execution vulnerability, and this bug allows an attacker to gain code execution on an affected system by sending specially crafted packets to a system utilizing the HTTP protocol stack to process packets. So no user interaction or privileges are required, and an elevated service would add up to a vulnerable bug. So that's all the critical vulnerabilities. So once you're done testing and rolling out the 0-day patches, we would suggest you to start patching the critical vulnerabilities next. Moving on, a total of 441 patches have been released in January 2021-22 so far, and all of them are supported by Desktop Central, Patch Manager Plus, and Vulnerability Manager Plus. As for the Patch Tuesday breakdown, so we have 97 vulnerabilities addressed this month and 112 patches released for the same. Taking a look at the OS or applications patched, so we have about 116 vulnerabilities addressed in Windows and a few vulnerabilities addressed in Microsoft Office, Exchange Server, and .NET as well. So as you can see, about 9% of the patches released this Patch Tuesday are critical, and about 90% of them are important. So this just goes to say that we cannot ignore most of the patches released this Patch Tuesday, and most of them have to be deployed to the production environment. So we have a split up with respect to the impact. So we have about 43 elevation of privilege vulnerabilities addressed this Patch Tuesday, followed by about 32 remote code execution vulnerabilities. Now let's take a look at the OS or applications patched one by one. So like I said, we have vulnerabilities addressed in Windows, Office, .NET, and Exchange Server. Take a look at them one by one now. As for Microsoft Windows, the patches released are termed critical, important, and moderate. Not patching them could cause remote code execution, elevation of privilege, information disclosure, denial of service, spoofing, and security feature bypass in your network. So here we have the CVIDs of the Microsoft Windows vulnerabilities patched this month. So this information is also available on our Patch Tuesday webpage. You can go over and peruse at your convenience. These are all the CVIDs of Microsoft Windows vulnerabilities patched this month. Moving on to Microsoft Office, the patches released are termed critical and important, and not deploying them could cause remote code execution in your network. So we have got 4 vulnerabilities addressed. This last one, CV 2022-21842, is a critical vulnerability. So you guys might want to start patching with this one first. Moving over to Microsoft.NET, the patches released are termed important, and ignoring them could cause denial of service in your network. So the CVID address is CVID 2022-21911. Moving over to Microsoft Exchange Server. So the patches released are termed critical and important, and it could cause remote code execution if not patched. So the CVIDs addressed are as shown on your screen. We already discussed the critical vulnerability in the critical vulnerability section. So you might want to start with patching the critical vulnerability in Microsoft Exchange Server first, followed by the other two. So we also have some third-party updates for Windows released this Patch Tuesday. So we have updates for Adobe, Acrobat Reader, Zoom Client, Mozilla, Firefox, and so on, released this Patch Tuesday as well. So apart from that, we also have non-security Office updates for Microsoft Office 2016, Microsoft Project, and so on. We also have few Mac updates released this Patch Tuesday. So with that, we come to the end of the Patch Tuesday update breakdown. New vulnerabilities per year is increasing at an alarming rate. Now that most organizations have adopted a hybrid work culture, vulnerabilities that target remote systems are rampant. Here are a few best practices that you can follow to maintain good patch hygiene in a distributed work environment. As a golden rule, always test patches before deployment. Prioritize security and critical updates for all machines. Synchronize patching schedules with monthly Patch Tuesdays. Set broad deployment windows for remote machines and patch during the non-business hours for office machines, especially your servers. Allow users to postpone deployment. Right now, I'm going to use Patch Manager Plus to demonstrate how to deploy Patch Tuesday updates and other major functionalities that will simplify your patch management routine. So like I mentioned earlier, it's extremely important to test your patches before deploying them in your production environment. Even in this month's Patch Tuesday, we have received reports from users stating that the cumulative updates KB 5009543 and KB 5009566 have affected the L2TP VPN connection. Additionally, the new Windows Server updates seem to be causing DC boot loops and breaking Hyper-V. To avoid such instances, always test your updates on a pilot group of systems and then deploy them to your production environment. With Patch Manager Plus, you can automate this testing and approval process quite easily. Let me show you how this can be done. So I'm going to take you guys to the console. So for demonstration today, I'm using Manage Engine Patch Manager Plus, build version 10.1.2127.15. If you guys are using Desktop Central or Vulnerability Manager Plus, you don't have to worry because the patch management features for all these three products are the same. So right here, you can find that we have the latest security news displayed for your convenience. So we have the Patch Tuesday supported updates. We also have news about the Windows cumulative updates that are breaking the VPN connections right now. So you can go check them out from your product console itself. Apart from that, we also have interactive graphs that give you your network status, system health status, missing patches, and so on, all just a click away. Now let me show you quickly how to test and approve patches automatically using Patch Manager Plus. So under deployment, you have the option test and approve. So click on that. These are the test groups that are already created. To create a new group, just go ahead and add group. So you can create Windows test groups, Mac test groups, and Linux test groups. For demonstration now, I'm going to go with a Windows test group. You can select the group of computers. From the custom groups that you have already created, or you can create a new pilot group of computers as well. All you have to do is just go ahead and create new group. So your test groups can only be static or static unique. So give your group a name, select the machines that you want as part of your test group, and give save, and you would have a group of test machines. So go back here and select that group. So once that is done, the next step is to select the updates that you want tested. So you need to test all the updates that you're planning on deploying to your production environment. So if you're planning on deploying critical and important security updates and critical and important non-security updates, test those on the pilot group of computers or your test group of computers. So you can patch all applications, test these updates on all applications, or you can patch all applications with exceptions as well. So I'm going to go with patch all applications. The same procedure is repeated for third-party updates. You can also test your antivirus and driver update. However, we would suggest you to create a separate test group for these updates. So the next step is selecting a deployment policy for your test group of computers. So you can go ahead and select a policy that you have already created, or you can go ahead and create a new policy as well. The next section is the notification settings. This is an optional section. You can enable notifications, give your email ID here, and get notified about the testing status. Your final section is the approval mode for tested patches. So this is an important section. So once you click on this automatically approve tested patches after a particular number of days, what happens is that successfully tested patches are automatically marked approved by the system. So once you have done all that, go ahead and give create. And your test group is created successfully. So with Patch Manager Plus, you have completely automated the process of testing and approving your patches. Let's go back to the presentation now. So now that we have tested our patches, the next step is to create a deployment policy for our production environment and create automated patch deployment or APD tasks, thereby completely automating our patching routine. So let me quickly take you to the console and show how you can create flexible deployment policies and associate the same with automate patch deployment or APD tasks. So to create flexible deployment policies, just click on deployment and you have deployment policies right here. So click on that. These are the policies that have already been created. To create a new policy, click on create policy. So you can base your deployment policy on your patch Tuesdays. Let me name this policy. So once that is done, the first step is the deployment schedule or selecting the deployment schedule. So you can go with a regular split or you can go with a patch Tuesday based split. So here you can mention the weeks wherein you want this deployment policy to happen. So if you're going to keep the patch Tuesday week for testing, you can select the rest of the weeks after patch Tuesday for deployment purposes. Then you can select the days of deployment. So for your remote machines, you can go ahead and keep it as broad as possible. Next is your deployment window. So like I said, you can completely customize this according to your requirements. So for instance, you can have a broad deployment window for your remote machines, or you can put down your non-office hours for your local machines or the machines at your office. So once you have selected the deployment window, then you can go ahead and select when you want to download patches from the server to the agent. It can be only during the deployment window or anytime the agent contacts the server. You can initiate deployment at system startup, refresh cycle, or either of these, whichever happens first. So I'm going to go with the third option. So once the first step is done, go ahead, give save and continue. The next step is configuring pre-deployment activities. So you can go ahead and wake on LAN the computers that are available at your office. You can also go ahead and configure pre-deployment reboot settings, when you can skip reboot for machines that don't require them and for servers, And you can also notify users about the impending reboot as well. You also have the option to add custom scripts. So you can now add scripts to say stop a particular process before the patch task happens in the pre-deployment activities, or maybe take a backup image of your machine before the deployment activities, and so on. You can go ahead and add custom scripts for all of that right now. So once your pre-deployment activities are configured, the third step is your pre-deployment user notification. So here you can choose to notify your users about deployment. So this is a very useful step when it comes to your remote users. You can notify them about deployment. You can also add a message here. So if you want them to perform a particular action for your patch deployment, you can include the same in this notification message as well. Further, you have the option to allow users to skip deployment in case they're involved in some critical activity. And if it is a critical patch or a 0-day patch, you can go ahead and force deployment after a number of days from the day the user has skipped deployment as well. So you can show deployment progress on client systems and so on. So once you have configured your user notification, go ahead and save it. The final step is the post-deployment activities. So you can configure the activities that you want to happen after your patch deployment. So like I said, you have the option to configure custom scripts. You can add scripts to say, start the process that you previously stopped for this particular patch deployment task, and so on, right here. You also have the option to configure post-deployment reboot and shutdown. So you can go ahead and force reboot within the deployment window for the machines at your office, or for remote machines, you can go ahead and delay reboot, wherein you give the end user the liberty to postpone reboot as well. So you can give them the options from which they can choose when they want their systems to be rebooted. So we have a user-defined time here. If you select this option, the end user can mention the time at which he or she wants his or her machine to be rebooted as well. So we have provided that level of flexibility here. You can go ahead and exclude reboot for machines that do not require reboot and for servers. So once you have marked the pre-deployment settings, post-deployment reboot and shutdown, go ahead, save and continue. So you can see your policy details here. Check them once and save and continue. Right here you have your customized deployment policy created successfully. The next task is creating an automate patch deployment or APD task and associating the deployment policy with the APD task. So with this, we will completely automate our patch management routine. So all you have to do is go to deployment and click on automate patch deployment. These are the tasks that are already running here. Create a new task. Name the task. Let's go ahead and configure the task now. So like I said, it's a 4-step process. The first step is selecting applications. So here you select the applications that you want deployed via this APD task that we've named PT Jan 2022. So if it is the critical and important security updates and non-security updates, you can go ahead and select those updates. You can also select optional updates, service packs, everything that you want deployed. So like I said before, you can go ahead and patch all applications, or you can selectively patch by excluding few applications. So right now I'm going to go with patch all applications. The same goes for third-party updates as well. So you can also select your antivirus and driver updates, but we would suggest you to create a separate APD task for these updates as they're quite frequent and bulky updates. So once that's done, you can choose to deploy the patches after a particular number of days from approval, so that you know that the patches that are deployed via this task has been tested and approved. So once that is done, your first step is done. Click on next. Now you can choose a deployment policy. So we can associate the customized policy that we created earlier for this Patch Tuesday with this APD task. So this policy runs after Patch Tuesday on the first, second, and third week. Select the policy that you created. So once that is done, you have the details of the policy mentioned here. You can also automatically suspend this particular task. For example, let's say you create a task for your work from home machines, and after 2 months, you're expecting those machines to come back to office. So you can go ahead and suspend your work from home task at a date and time in which you expect your machines to come back to office. So once you've done that, you're done with the second step. The third step is defining targets or choosing the computers that receive updates through this APD task. So you can go ahead and select your local users or your roaming machines or the machines that you want this task to be deployed to. You can also go ahead and filter out few machines from your target systems as well. So you can exclude machines based on criteria mentioned here. For instance, if I don't want, say, Windows 7 machines to get updates through this particular APD task, I can just go ahead and exclude those machines. Go to Operating System and exclude the Windows 7 machines. So once you've defined your target, your final step is configuring notifications. This is an optional step. You can choose to get notified about the download and deployment status at the frequency of your choosing. You can also attach detailed reports on the same by giving your email ID here. You can also configure your mobile app if you've downloaded and set up the Patch Manager Plus mobile app. So once that is done, all you have to give is save, and your APD task has been successfully created. So let's go back to our console now. Quickly summarizing, there are 4 stages to creating an APD task, like we saw earlier. First is selecting applications. The second is choosing a deployment policy. So for Patch Tuesday updates, you can set the Patch Tuesday split like I showed in your deployment policy. The third step is defining the target, and the fourth step is configuring notifications. Now, some of our users wanted to find out if they had a method of filtering out Patch Tuesday updates. So you can see the Patch Tuesday updates from the patches view very easily. And let me show you how this can be done. So going back to the console, click on the Patches tab, and you have these supported patches right here. So the supported patches will list all the patches that Manage Engine supports. To filter out the Patch Tuesday updates, all you have to do is click on Filter. Click on the plus here to add a filter. You can name this filter, save it, and run it whenever you want, or you can save it or you can run it one time. So in the column, select the release date and set it to Patch Tuesday. Custom date, set it to Patch Tuesday. So once you give apply, you can view the Patch Tuesday updates or the updates released on Patch Tuesday right here. Next, to see how many systems in your network are missing these updates, all you issues. Let me just repeat that. We seem to be facing some audio issues. Just give me a few seconds to sort that out. All right, so let me repeat that part about finding the Patch Tuesday updates missing in your network. So go to the missing patches and click on the filter. Click on the plus to add a new filter. Go to the column, select the release date and set it to Patch Tuesday. Like that. So once you give apply, you can see the updates patches that were released on Patch Tuesday and the systems missing them. So just click on the missing system and you can see the system-wise view. So all you have to do here is select the update and give install patch, create a manual configuration and deploy it to the system that is missing these patches. This is one way of deploying Patch Tuesday updates as well. So let's go back to the presentation now and take a look at another scenario, which is declining patches. So some of your business applications might not be compatible with the latest version of certain software. In such cases, you might want to decline these patches. Or in another case, like we have been seeing recently, some Patch Tuesday updates seem to be causing some breakage in certain applications. So in such cases, you might want to wait it out, decline these updates until Microsoft provides a fix for the same. So let me show you how this can be done using Patch Manager Plus. So let me quickly take you to the console now. So under patches, we have the option to decline patch. So click on that. You can select a group and decline patches to this group of computers. So if it's a problematic patch, all you have to do is select all computers group. The next step is selecting the patches that you want declined. So go to next and select patches that you want declined. So go ahead and give add patches. So we have released a forum post for the patches affected by this cumulative update breakdown. as you can see right here. So you can go to this forum post from your console as well. It's available under the latest security news. So here we have mentioned the bulletin ID and the patch ID of the patches that cause this particular breakage. So to decline them, all you have to do is copy this bulletin ID and search it here. So once you do that, we can see all the patches mentioned here. Just click on the patches that you want to decline and add them. So we've added all of these patches as well. So once you give next, you can see the summary details. And once you give save, these patches will automatically be declined to the systems that are present in this particular group. That's how you can decline patches to a group of computers using Patch Manager Plus. Go back to our presentation now. So with that, we come to the end of today's Patch Tuesday session. On your screen, you can find the solutions that we offer which support patch management. So we have Desktop Central, which is our flagship UEM solution. We also have the MSP version of the same. We have Patch Manager Plus, which is our standalone patch management solution. It is available both on premises and cloud. And Patch Manager Plus is what I used for demonstration today. We have Vulnerability Manager Plus, which is our vulnerability assessment solution that comes combined with patch management. We also have Patch Connect Plus. So in case you guys are having an SCCM environment and have difficulty in patching third-party updates, you can go ahead and use Patch Connect Plus. So we're still taking questions. If you guys have any doubts with respect to the Patch Tuesday updates or our products, do let us know via chat and we will answer them. Hope you guys found this session useful. Please take a few minutes to rate our webinar and fill out the survey. Your suggestions will help us tweak the session for next month. If you need any further clarity on any of our solutions, we offer free personalized demos for the same. So if you're interested, do let us know through chat. If you have any additional queries, you can also write to me at this email ID, kartika.s@zohocorp.com. Thank you all so much for joining the session and patiently sitting through it. You guys have been an amazing audience. See you next month and have a great day.